Today in studio, we are joined by reigning Miss South Africa, Sasha-Lee Olivier. She recently took to the Miss World stage representing South Africa. Sasha-Lee, who was Miss South Africa 2019 runner-up, was announced as the new Miss South Africa, taking over Miss SA duties from the title holder Zozibini Tunzi, who was crowned Miss Universe in December. Now, Sasha-Lee says she was thrilled to wear the Miss South Africa crown, and she says, I quote, taking over the Miss South Africa title means that I'm able to continue working to help women who, like me, have been sexually abused. It will be a top priority for me during my time as Miss South Africa, close quote. Sasha-Lee says beauty isn't in how you look, but it's a matter of what you put out into the world. Well, she's here to tell us all about that and more. Welcome to Channel Africa, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've just opened with a statement that you said that beauty isn't about the how you look. It's about what you're putting out. And you're known for having represented women with curves. Tell me a little bit about that and what you mean by that statement.
You know, I think that the first thing we need to look into is unpacking the very definition of what it means to be plus size. So there are three definitions, one in accordance with the industry and what that means. So in accordance with the industry, to be plus size means that you are above a size 34. So anything above sample size is considered plus size within the modeling industry. So in my field of work, I'm considered plus size. And then there's society's perception of plus size, and that, well, that's subjective, because everyone has their view of what plus size is, and that's okay. And then there's my view and how I see myself. I consider myself as my own size, and I own that. And obviously I'm in an industry that dubs me plus size, but that doesn't mean that that's how it's supposed to be. The very core of why we were here was to put ourselves in places where people said we did not belong, and counter that.
Now, taking it back a little bit, when did you start participating in pageants? At what age?
So my very first pageant was actually Miss Varsity Cup. So that was at UJ in 2013. So I was Miss Varsity Cup UJ and then Miss Varsity Cup South Africa. So that was contestants from each university participating to represent the respective university. And as everyone knows, I love rugby. So I was front and center there. I absolutely loved it. It was more about the sport and keep the aggro on the field, which was the Pink Shorts campaign that basically countered abuse against women. So everything that resonated with me at the time for abuse against women was within that campaign. So that's why I participated. So before Miss South Africa, I only ever did one pageant.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You would think that because you are at the Miss South Africa stage, you would have had training and all of that, and you aspired to be in pageantry. What do you think made you to just go onto that stage and without any background of pageantry?
I saw the Miss South Africa platform for what it is, and it was instrumental in alleviating various socio-economic issues that we had faced as South Africans. So I looked to what the mission statement was, and that was to be an agent of change and to be a beacon of hope, those kinds of things. That's what was in line with my personal mission statement too, and that's why I felt it would be very fitting, an amalgamation of the two brands. And that's why I actually participated in the pageant. I don't think one would need as much pageant training, because once you get there, you are trained by Vadna. So I think that we all have, going back to that, I think that we all have the answers. It's a matter of getting to them and releasing those particular answers.
Growing up as a little girl, what did you want to do later in life?
You know, I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be an artist. I loved how beautiful things looked. And I feel like God played me there, because I can't really draw, but I can paint.
Okay.
I can paint. So I always wanted to be an artist, and I think when you choose what it is that you want to do in life, as you get older, you choose economic gain, and naturally you aspire to get a job and not find what your purpose is in life, because it's natural for us as South Africans to want to be able to support ourselves and our families and be in pursuit of that term economic growth for our families, you know. And that's basically why I ended up choosing BCom accounting first. I didn't choose the art route first.
Was there any advice, maybe from the parents or your guidance teacher, that made you to then decide to pursue, apart from what you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has contributed to my state of unbecoming. And, a lot of books that you read, a lot of people that you're exposed to, a lot of conversations you have. I've always said this, I'm a product of the conversations that resonate with me the most. And I found myself, after a while, just going more towards becoming a teacher. Because at the core of everything, kids are what I'm passionate about.
So when I was introducing you, I mentioned that you wanted to also bring out the fact that you coming from a background of sexual abuse, and you've got a beautiful campaign that you launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the hashtag It's Not Your Fault campaign aims to liberate and celebrate those who have unfortunately survived sexual assault. I feel like we are in a place that's very perpetrator-centric, where we have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that this was an occurrence. And, the effects are long-lasting, not only in the actual occurrence, but the stigma is not only towards the occurrence, it's the aftermath of trauma, mental ill health. And I just found that there aren't many initiatives that deal with the aftermath of trauma. So we put ourselves in a space where we want to bring comfort and restore the dignity of these individuals.
Have you yourself been able to open up fully about what happened to you? And do you, in the campaign that you're running, come across people that perhaps still have difficulty in sharing their stories?
I found myself having to often recommit to telling the story. There's days where I feel okay with it. There's days where I don't. I think it's only natural because you're putting yourself in a space where it's an extremely, somewhat painful story. Regardless of what we have now come to, it was still painful. And, it still is difficult speaking about it. But I've taken this step for millions of men and women all over the world who have now been silenced. Our objective here is to break the chains of silence, shame and fear. And as a collective, that's what we do.
And what would you say are the causes for people to be silent and not say what is it that has been happening?
I've said this before. It's our society, our socialization process that breeds the perpetrator. It's our socialization process and our story that silences our survivors. Things like what happens in the house stays in the house. Things like giving certain people authority over your younger kids and not making them counter that or talk back and defend themselves and think that because they're a child that they're also wrong. I mean, those are the things that willingly aid this in a certain type of way. So it's more our socialization process and the stigma, not only internally but externally appropriated to that person who has survived that, unfortunately.
So when someone has already, gathered the courage to be able to speak out and tell somebody, how can we as society support that person?
I think the one thing we need to stay away from is those questions that we ask, like, what were you wearing? Were you drinking anything? Are you sure? Like those kind of things. And rather ask, how can I help you? How can I be of service to you in this moment now? I know you're not going to say you need me, but I'm here. That kind of thing. Because when you ask certain questions, I think sometimes it could appropriate blame. And I don't think we do this on purpose. I think language is very powerful, and doing linguistics, you get to a place where you understand the role it plays in this, like the role of the media and certain headlines, and how women are somewhat to blame within a statement that is written, as opposed to men or whoever the perpetrator was being central to that message.
Tell me, how has your family been supportive in your journey, particularly in the issue that you're talking about now? I would like to believe that it's very important to have someone in your family that's going to stand with you once whatever has been happening comes to light.
I think it is important to have a group of people around you. And I think I'm very fortunate to not only have my family, but to also have the Miss South Africa family around me, very much aware of what had happened and very much supportive of what my view is and what my mission is regarding the hashtag It's Not Your Fault campaign. My family has been very supportive. I have a very supporting mother and sister, and I think that with them in my corner, I can obviously achieve what it is that I set out to.
Speaking of your mother, how did she take it when you participated in the Miss SA pageant?
I mean, my mother never thought that I would. And I think it's because I was very much a tomboy growing up, always playing vintage video games. And I don't think she's ever really seen the feminine side to me. Because before Miss South Africa, believe it or not, I was always someone that was wearing track pants and always had my hair up and never wore makeup and never did my nails and had nail polish on. So
that wasn't
she
so long ago, though. It's like it has just come on you naturally. How did you do that?
I think, given the nature of my work, I can adapt given the setting, but I think it is hard sometimes, but I'm used to wearing high heels all the time now. I actually feel strange not wearing high heels and a blazer, and I think she never thought that I would do it because I was very tomboyish.
And so when now she realized that, okay, you're participating, and what kind of talk did she have with you to encourage you to make sure that you go there with all the confidence that you need? Apart from the training, I know you've got a very good trainer in Werner.
Yeah.
But what did the conversations with your mother sound like?
My mom always says wake up with purpose. And sometimes it can be when you're doing something wrong. And she's like, you need to wake up with purpose, girl. And it was just something that she always said every day. And when you get to a place now where you unpack that, you realize how important that is and how important purpose is and pursuing your purpose. And I think, our purpose is to give back as much as we can, but how you do it in whichever stage of your life you're in is obviously different. Like right now, it's with Miss South Africa. She always says that I do know the answer and I need to start believing that I do a little bit more. So those were the conversations that we had prior.
All right. So after the break, we'll talk more to Miss SA.
Hello, this is Tshofatso August Modiga Powers, and you're watching Living Life by Design with Amanda Machaka.
Welcome back to Life by Design right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. My name is Amanda Machaka, and today in studio we are joined by Miss South Africa, Sasha-Lee Olivier. And before the break, she was sharing a little bit about her purpose in life, and you saying that your mom has always told you to wake up to purpose. What would you say your purpose is? And I know that right now you are using the Miss SA platform to further that, but what is your purpose in life?
I think that my purpose is to educate and liberate people around the subject matter of what sexual violence is and the effect in the long run that it has on those who have survived it. I think that that's very much my purpose. And the thing with purpose is throughout your life, you find yourself unwillingly or willingly contributing towards that. I see that as in being a teacher, I'm that person who is a safe haven for those kids. Within the Miss South Africa platform, I'm someone who's offering these comfort packs, and who knows in what specific space it would be next, but I think that's the purpose. That's the purpose, but everything around your life gears you towards that particular thing.
What did it take for you to take something as traumatic as sexual assault and use it as something that you can empower other people with that have experienced that, seeing that now it has become something that is part of your purpose?
I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a part of Miss South Africa. I knew that this would be the story I would tell, but I'm not going to lie and say that it was easy. I'm not going to lie and say that there was moments where I didn't want to give up, or especially in those moments where I was diagnosed with PTSD and the aftermath of trauma was very intense and very difficult. I think you never get to a place where you are able to just be vulnerable with anyone. I don't think you ever get there. It's been very much aware of the fact that it's bigger than you. That pushes you towards doing it. Was I comfortable sharing that on live television on the 9th of August? No, I wasn't. But I knew at that moment it wasn't about me. It was about the people that I represented. It was about the story and the conversation that we've neglected to have as South Africans. as people all over the world, because this is something that's not only a reality in South Africa. This is an issue that transcends borders. This is a global pandemic, and we need to get to that place where we have these conversations. So the issue of the conversation being neglected is much bigger than how I feel at any particular moment. That's why I have to sometimes recommit to telling my story, because it is still hard.
And you went as far as taking it to the world when you took that campaign when you were participating in Miss World.
Yeah.
Now tell us about that, the reception and the state of preparedness that you were in to be able to open up like that on such a wide and bigger platform.
I was prepared for it given what I had experienced at Miss South Africa. You know, they say success is never the elevator, it's the staircase. So every single moment leading up until that time when I was at Miss World made me confident in my story, and I owned it. And we had the opportunity to speak about this at the Oxford Union. I was one of the 6 countries that were chosen to participate at Oxford University and have a chat about certain socio-economic issues that our country, the respective countries, were facing, our proposed solutions, how we deem or how we think we would tackle the issue, and also the head-to-head challenge that we then had, which was great because for the first time ever I felt like I was in conversation with our country, and they knew exactly what it is that I stood for.
Let's talk about your Miss World journey. How was it like to mingle with ladies from different countries, and was there any friendship that you gained while you were there?
I can say this now, Miss Nigeria was always being the girl that used to photobomb me. All the time. Nika was always in my photos. It was great having the opportunity to get to meet someone, not only like her, but all the other girls, and you notice that you have this one thing that's in common, and it's women who want to change the world, women who are empowered and have, you know, a purpose in life, and it's great because then you have these amazing conversations and you gain different perspectives on how you could better tackle these issues within your own country. So it's like a huge conference basically.
And what state of mind do you have to be in to get to that level, really? Because I can imagine it should be like daunting.
I mean, it's daunting representing a country that's so rich in culture and diverse, and although it's an honor, you're representing an entire country. So once you wrap your head around that, I don't think anyone ever would, but then you get to a place where you realize you have to be present every single day. So I took each day as it came. I prepared for each day, and that's how I took it. Because Miss World, it was a matter of persistence in the face of defeat, because there were a multitude of challenges, and we never won all of them. I got to speak at the Oxford Union, but I never got to win top model. You know, I participated in sports, and although I was 9th, and that was a win for me, so I was never athletic. I was the artistic student, so I was happy with the win. The 9th was a win for me. The head-to-head challenge, which was great. We didn't make it through to the finals because it was on the basis of public vote, but that's when, you know, that's where the little wins are. But it was persistence in the face of defeat, and I think that's a life lesson on its own, because you're not going to win all the time. You're not going to be celebrated all the time, but you need to get up and you need to do what you need to do.
And most importantly, celebrate yourself, celebrate your wins, and that will advance you in life. Now you come back and you wearing that sash. You are Miss South Africa. Were you prepared for this?
You know, I woke up on the morning of Miss Universe, and I went to bed around the time that Zozi was in the top 20. So I felt like it was going to be good news, but you never know, because you just never know, you know. And I woke up and I saw the news and I was shaking and I was quiet.
Because you knew what it meant.
I knew what it meant, but it was, my take on this, it was simple. It was, no matter what, I got a crown either way.
I like that.
No matter what. So there was no pressure, but I just took a step back and I realized how God's plan is and how everything happens in His time, and everything will come on its chosen day, and it's never really in your time. It's a matter of destiny delayed and not destiny denied for me, and I was grateful for that.
And it's beautiful also to see the sisterhood that you ladies have. Miss S.A. Zozi having said what she said when you took over the crown, that, you know, she was very happy for you, and how you celebrated her as well. How did you get that right?
You know, before we left to our respective places, we actually used to sit and watch YouTube videos together and prepare, you know. So if Werner wasn't around, we'd sit and we'd listen to a question, and she'd tell me what her view was on it, and I'd tell her what my view is on it, and we'd sit with our notebook together. So we knew that she's going to one place and I'm going to another, and together as a collective, you know, collaboration is key in certain things. And it was great to learn from her and have an opportunity to witness the type of person that she is and how she stands by what she says. You know, but it's one thing to say something, it's another thing to live it.
That's right. So we followed the reactions on social media, beautiful ones that we came across. Were there any people, though, that were not so supportive in terms of how the crown came? You said it doesn't matter how it came, I get to wear it. And some of us, most of us, I think, celebrated the fact that you have the crown.
Yeah.
Were there any naysayers?
There will always be naysayers, regardless of where you are, which platform you're in. They're there. And that means you're on the right path. For me, it's you're on the right path then. And I'm okay with it because I'm very much aware of the fact that I've earned my space here. It was just not my time on the 9th of August. It happened the way it did, and I'm very much aware of the bigger picture, because in those moments where, you know, everyone, regardless of what you believe in, the universe, your whatever your God is, you get to that place of complete surrender and you ask God, like, where should I be? Where should I assume this position? Because there was a crown either way. It was either in London or it was in South Africa. And my purpose is here. It's an occurrence every 26 seconds here. So it was fitting that I was meant to be here. And I'm very comfortable in who I am as a person to say that this is my position, and I am Miss South Africa 2019, and I'm owning that. And I know that I have big shoes to fill, but this is still my space right now.
Definitely, this is your time. Have you gotten a chance to celebrate? Because you have to.
I haven't as yet. I think it's all happened so quickly. It's all happened so quickly, you know. I was very much aware of the fact that it was going to happen on the, you know, but once it happened, it was still very fast. And I'm still trying to adapt to what is currently now.
And let's talk about your beautiful home. How did it feel like to, you know, get into that and make it your own space?
You know, I'm very grateful to the sponsors, you know, Central Square, Mia Bella Interiors, for giving us a place that we can call our own, that we can have downtime in, and basically recuperate for what's to come. You know, it's great that they come on board and they believe in our vision and our ideas, because in them sponsoring us, it means that they believe in what it is that we'd like to achieve.
So now, as Miss South Africa, do you have a plan of action that you've been working on?
You know, I don't have a 5-point plan in place. What I do know is that my primary focus is my hashtag It's Not Your Fault campaign, because as I've said on multiple occasions, that is a conversation that we as a nation have neglected to have. So I don't want to, I can lend my voice to a multitude of causes, and that's okay, but sexual assault is my primary concern right now. And I speak from the standpoint not only as someone who has survived that, but I speak from the standpoint of being an educator. You know, everyone looks at education and everyone sees where the problem is. You know, they say it's infrastructure. They say it's teachers who lack both the intrinsic or extrinsic motivational factors to perform their function. And albeit that can sometimes be the case, the issue of education is not education within itself. It's a component within education, learning. And the primary function of a brain isn't to learn, it's actually survival. So if the brain doesn't feel safe, the brain will not learn. So from a standpoint of being an educator and being an assistant teacher right now, I want to get to a place where our kids feel safe, not only in the classroom, but beyond the classroom, And we've seen our current socioeconomic status isn't conducive to learning, high levels of poverty. There's been a multitude of studies that have shown the effects of scarcity on IQ. So not having food and having to worry about your transport money every week. We've seen it, So that's the issue that I'm trying to tackle.
Yeah. And where did you start with your It's Not Your Fault campaign?
So I actually started the campaign prior to leaving for Miss World. I was lucky enough to have Penny Stain and the Angel Network who had already started it, and I came on board because it's something that I believe in. And it's a pack that restores someone's dignity because it tells them that it's not their fault. It goes beyond being a hygiene pack. It tells them that it's not their fault in a time that they need it most. Those people who have survived sexual assault aren't going to be aware of the fact that in that moment they need a pad, or they need sugar, or they need a face cloth, because in that moment they need to submit certain things for evidence. And we've seen that any justice system isn't for the person who has survived it, because it's just gruesome and full of secondary trauma, because you have to relive it, you have to tell your statement, and you asked questions that, in order for them to get the answer to, may seem like they're appropriating blame to that particular person. So the onus is now on the person who has survived it to prove that beyond reasonable doubt that this was the case. So that's my focus now, the hashtag It's Not Your Fault campaign, and I started it prior, and it's something that I'm going to continue through, not only throughout my Miss South Africa journey, but until we get to that generation that doesn't have to say Me Too again. Will it stop?
What do you think it would take for us to get there?
It's very much owning your story. And a story is something that's complex, It's our socialization process that breeds the perpetrator.
Yeah.
It's our socialization process and what we learn and what we are exposed to that silences our survivors. And only once we take ownership of that can we understand what it is that or the behavior that we project onto society. Because I believe, to be honest, that the person who was the perpetrator was also somewhat a victim to the socialization process. Because where did they learn that behavior?
And looking at the justice system, would you say that it, for lack of a better word again, it favors the perpetrator or the victim?
I've been exposed to a lot of things, but the most difficult thing for me was the day I went to the children's court. I was in a children's court, and they have dogs in the court, and the dogs are actually used to train these kids, and they play different roles in the court. Like one dog would be the magistrate, one dog would be the prosecutor. And there was a moment, 50 kids in the classroom, now very much aware of the fact that there's 50 kids who have now just been sexually assaulted and now reintroduced or taken into the program where they now have to testify in court. The court process is not for children. It really isn't. There was the woman who was teaching these kids saying the role of the prosecutor in the court is to confuse you, but you know your story, don't be scared. And I'm watching her say this to kids who are under the age of 9.
That makes no sense to them.
It makes no sense to me that they even have to be there. And I know I say this although I was sexually abused at the age of 7, but it's difficult to watch them in that space because you have a snapshot of what their life could be like at that moment. It's either they turn it into something like this where they use it to push on and to liberate others and to bring others out of it, or it could go another way.
Yeah. And already they've been through so much and they have to relive what happened to them, and then the system doesn't favor them either.
It doesn't.
So what do you think can be done to just make some changes in the justice system? Because if we want to get to where you're saying that we don't want to be hearing stories of Me Too, there should be some things that we need to look at along the way. In the justice system, what are the things that we think should be improved?
To be quite honest with you, I am not sure of what it is that needs to be improved. But I can say that there is a lot of secondary trauma that occurs within the courtroom. and the process to getting up to that place where they are going to be telling their statement. And there's no way that you can ask a question without the trauma occurring again. There's no way you can perform the rape kit in the very same area that has been violated without there being a form of secondary trauma. I think they try to put the dogs in to be very calming, but
it's really not helping that
much. It's not a place for someone who has survived that, because you have to now prove beyond reasonable doubt that this happened to you, and the person who did it, they just get to sit there.
Yeah. All right. More after this break. Africa, the African perspective. Today on the show, we are joined by Miss South Africa, Sasha-Lee Olivier, and she's sharing her story of how she overcame sexual assault. And, she's been doing such great things through the It's Not Your Fault campaign that she was sharing with us before the break. Welcome back to Life by Design, Sasha-Lee. Now, how do people get involved in this campaign that you're running?
So it's as easy as following the link on the Back Buddy system that we have. We are looking to raise R1 million. I don't think it's a big ask given the fact that there are over 50 million people in our country. And on issues like this, it takes a village. On issues like this, it's going to take a collaborative effort. I can't do this on my own. So regardless of how much it is that you want to contribute, it's going to contribute towards restoring someone's dignity, and that is something that we can't quantify, because how do you measure that? Giving someone their dignity back in a time that they most need it.
Any highlights that you'd like to share since you started with the campaign on how maybe you touched someone and made a difference, or how the campaign has done so?
There are many times where someone sends me a direct message and they say, please don't stop what you're doing, because I needed your message today. I found myself needing it again, because sexual assault for the perpetrator may be a once-off occurrence, but that person has to live with it for the rest of their life. And you're reminded, you're triggered by normal things in society, someone closing the door, a certain smell. They need the message, and they always in my direct messages telling me what it is that they survived. And I appreciate that, because I believe in speaking up, and by speaking up I mean us speaking up together, not speaking out because then you're on your own, because together it's something that we're getting through. And I found that a lot of the times I struggle to cope, they're also there to take on the baton and bring me forward, or bring me and center me to a place where I need to be again.
What is the importance of having therapy, ongoing therapy, in order for one to be able to cope? Not that they cannot live life like we see through you, that life continues. You can be happy and be successful and use this as a cause. But then, what is the importance of having that mental support and therapy that you continue getting?
I always say that, or I speak for myself when I say this, it's not the trauma, it's the aftermath. It's having to live with the fact that at one time when you were vulnerable, someone took advantage. You live with that. It influences your behavior. It influences the fact that you have a very difficult time trusting people again. Not only would it be men, it could also be women, It could filter out into your home life, your work life, your schooling. A lot of the people who go through post-traumatic stress disorder would feel or get the symptoms around the age of about 21, 22. The reason why this is a very inconvenient time to have this, it would be around the time that you're actually in university. It would be around the time that you're trying to make something of your life. So you find yourself in a position where this person has not only maybe taken your childhood away, but they are now continuing to take, because you have to go through, or may go through, depression. You may go through anxiety. So it's important to have someone to speak to about it, because you may not understand the emotions you're feeling right now. And we need to get to a place where we have a society that is open to these discussions on mental ill health and what they are and what they stem from, because it's not only a matter of genetics here, it's a matter of the socio-economic status of the country and the influence that these things have on that particular individual. So whatever it is that you're exposed to, that trauma, whatever it may be, whether it be violence in different types of forms, it would then impact you in the future.
Now, what would you say to a child or anyone that's listening to us right now and they are so afraid to come out and say, this is what happened to me, or this is what is happening to me? What's the first step that they can take to break the silence?
They need to remember that it's not their fault. That's the name of the campaign for a reason. I think a lot of people don't speak up because they think that they had control in that situation. No, someone took advantage of you. They are in the wrong. You're not in the wrong. And I think it's so important for us on the outside, when someone is speaking to you about that, to say, I believe you. It's so important. I believe you. So it's two sides of a coin here. It's people can speak out, but how it's received, it could impact them either way.
All right. And before I let you go, what is that one thing that you live by?
Everything will come on its chosen day. Everything will come on its chosen day. It's something that I've said before the Miss South Africa pageant. I remember it was something that it was a motto and a quote that was next to me while I was walking in the swim around, because they put your motto up. And I think I'm living testament to that, because now in the time that it's necessary for South Africa to be having this conversation, I'm here and I'm an instrument in this process.
Definitely. Everything will come on its chosen day. And that's exactly what happened with you. Thank you so much for sharing the time to celebrate the fact that you're Miss South Africa, right? You need to do that. Thank you so much, Sasha-Lee. Yours is a beautiful, inspiring story, and I hope that it will help a lot of people out there. As much as your campaign is touching so many lives, that our listeners will just be encouraged and empowered and motivated through your story.
As do I, and thank you so much for having me.
It's only a pleasure. And it's time for our thought of the day, and it reads as thus: I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains. And it's by Anne Frank. I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains. So this has been Life by Design on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Let's connect on social media. On Facebook, it's Living Life by Design. On Twitter and on Instagram, it's @living_life by design. You can tell us how Sasha-Lee's story has touched your life, has made a difference in your life, because I believe that there are a lot of people that will be impacted by this. So from myself, Amanda Machaka, and producer Yamin Tlenyama, till next time, and remember, you are the architect of your life.